Hi, this is my presentation on front-end frameworks, like React. So, why would you use a front-end framework? First is extendability. They can be super easy and simple to add new components and functionality. Lots of developers will make these components that you can easily import and install using package managers like Node, and they will add they'll add capabilities really easily. Another reason to use front-end frameworks is the options that they afford. So as you can see, there's 7 common frameworks and there's plenty more out there. But each of them has their own strengths. Like React, very performant, big community, so you have lots of extensions and things you can add to it to increase its functionality, but it can be very complex. Next, you have Svelte. It's a newer framework. It's very fast, very easy to learn. But it's not as common, so there's not as many plugins and not as many companies are using it yet. Next, you have jQuery, which is a very versatile library, but it can be very complex and the code can be very unmaintainable if you're not careful. Vue is easy to learn and flexible. It's also a lot less opinionated than Angular. Angular is a very comprehensive framework, though. It has lots of great tooling behind it, and it's very common, a very large community, but it can be very opinionated, so you have to write the code to match the way it wants, and it can be hard to pick up. Ember.js is a very strongly configured, it wants you to write it a very specific way. It has a lot of built-in features, especially for state management and routing, but it can be, again, very complex to learn. You might notice a pattern here. Backbone is a very lightweight framework, but it's made mostly for single page, so it doesn't have very strong built-in tooling for configuration or state management. So you have to set a lot of that up yourself. Other reasons to use a framework is server-side rendering. This means that your server doesn't work as hard and it can serve more people because it only has to focus mainly on sending the initial request with all the JavaScript and then just matching the database queries. This means that the front-end frameworks will be more performant because they're not constantly waiting for those new pages or those changes in states. It'll all be rendered and decided on the user's computer. So here's a couple examples of that. You can see here I'm checking if the user's logged in, and if they are, I'm showing them the sign out button, and if they aren't logged in, I'm showing them the sign in button. So it also makes this really easy because this is right in the component, and you can see there's JavaScript mixed with HTML, and it just makes it really easy to put that all there and keep it all maintained and simple. And then down here, I'm using a custom component I made called NoteCard, and I feed it the data from this array, and it just populates all of that, or it makes a note card with the data populated for every item in that note card list. So it's really easy to spin this all up, and each of these are self-contained, so it makes it really easy to go and maintain that note card component, or to use that note card component in any page I need, because I would just import it and call note card and pass it the data, and it's all good to go. So this all sounds great. So why not use a front-end framework? Well, like I said, a lot of times they can be very complex to learn. So new users have a hard time figuring out how to make it work the way that they want them to. You also learn frameworks instead of base concepts, which means that you understand less about why things are done this way and more just how to do them, which means you don't always make the best decision because you're not always informed about what the best decision would be because you don't have that underlying knowledge. The other one is frameworks come and go. So like Svelte is looking like a very promising framework, but it's still very small, and companies are going to have a hard time migrating to it because they'd have to move all of their code, which means a lot of rewriting, which isn't optimal. So it can be hard to switch between them, and that means that you're always learning new frameworks because as you move from company to company, or as you want to start the new technology, you have to migrate to new ones. So takeaways: know what you want to build and know why you picked the framework that you did, and what the trade-offs are for it, and don't shortcut the basics. Know why things are done the way they are and how to best use them and the trade-offs that come with that. And that's it for my presentation.